And welcome back, everybody. We're chatting with Vanessa Forsblad, talking about evangelizing the youth and specifically talking about the church. And before the break, Vanessa, you're going through starting in Scripture and bringing out catechetical points like church is everywhere. It's persisted throughout time. There's a unity, a oneness to it. There's sanctity, holiness, and of course, universal, or what we would say Catholic, right? That it's found everywhere, teaching the same things. Fantastic stuff. So I know you want to dive right into the rest of the list. So why don't we do that?
Yes, thank you. Before we continue, I just want to apologize if it cuts out. We currently have a storm here in Los Angeles, California, and we are not prepared for water here. So I do apologize if the internet cuts in and out. I'm not too sure if it is, but if it does, that is why California needs to learn how to handle the rain. But as he mentioned, we briefly discuss about the key points of the church. So we're going to keep going forward with some other of the points that are so important. So the next one that I'd like to mention is that the church is apostolic. This is very important when we're seeking out the one true church, because the church could be around from the end. There's so many people that claim that their church can be traced all the way back to the time of Christ, even though when we look at the history, the only church that we could see being able to be traced back to the time of Christ is the Catholic Church. And that is because of these key points. But a key reason as to why we could trace the Catholic Church is that the church's teachings are apostolic, that they have continued since the time of the apostles. And we learn that the church needs to be apostolic in Scripture, such as Ephesians 2:19-20, where it says the household built on the foundation of the apostles and the prophets. And then we see this also in John 20, verse 21, where it says, peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, I am sending you. So we see that Jesus Christ is sending his apostles just as his Father sent him. And we also see this again in Luke 10:16. One of my favorite verses when we talk about the church being apostolic. It says, whoever listens to you listens to me. Whoever rejects you rejects me. But whoever rejects me rejects him who sent me. And so we see this importance of this apostolic succession that Jesus Christ has in his church. He says that whoever rejects you rejects me, and in turn rejects the one that sent me. But who sent him? His Father. So when we're not following what the apostles taught, the apostolic teachings, we are truly going against what the Father expects of us. And so this isn't just some men saying, like, believe me because I'm standing on a podium and I'm telling you to believe me. No, believe me because Jesus Christ sent me and his Father sent him. And so it's so important to want to be a part of the church that continues these teachings from the apostles, from Jesus Christ, from God. And something super cool and super beautiful, which I don't know if this is something you'd like to dive into if you're having this conversation, but I'd like to bring it up to people, that what's so amazing is that all of our priests and bishops in the Catholic Church can be traced back to the 12 apostles. Like, you can follow that lineage back. And no other church or no other Protestant denomination can make that claim. They could say, oh, we're the Church of Christ and we're the church that Christ established, but no other church can literally trace its way back to the apostles and to apostolic teaching. So we learned that the church needs to be apostolic, and we see it really grounded in the Catholic Church. We also learn from Scripture that the church is true. And we learn it from one of my favorite verses, which is 1 Timothy 3:15. It says, God's household, which is the church of the living God, the pillar and foundation of truth. So we learn that this church that Jesus Christ has given the world, that is still around till today, is true. And we learn that Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. And we learn that he gives this truth to his church, which is the household of the living God. We also learn in Scripture that the church is not just like, oh, choose whatever you want. We're just a place where everyone can come and believe what they want. we learn that the church is authoritative. And this is amazing and beautiful because this means that there's structure to the church that can continue till today. If it wasn't authoritative, if it didn't have this structure, if it didn't have this necessity for authority, then we could probably see this church crumble just as other institutions have crumbled because of a lack of authority. We see this necessity of authority in our day-to-day lives, whether it be in the government, whether it be in our school systems, at work, we have a boss, we have employees, even in our own households, we have our parents, and then we have the kids. So there is this necessity of authority, and we see this outlined in Scripture that the church also needs this authority. And we see this in Matthew 18:15-20. It says, if they still refuse to listen, tell it to the church. And if they refuse to listen even to the church, treat them as you would a pagan or a tax collector. And so when we look at this verse, we see this extreme necessity for authority. It says that if they won't listen to your brother or sister, okay, take it to this person, take it to this person. But at the end, take it to the church. And if they refuse to listen to even the church, then treat them as a pagan, treat them as a tax collector. Don't even associate with them anymore. So we see that when he teaches that the church needs to be authoritative, this isn't just some simple thing. This literally means that if they reject my teachings and they reject the apostles, they reject myself, they reject my Father, then treat them as a tax collector, treat them as a pagan, that don't associate with them. And so we see this extreme necessity for this authoritative church and you bringing structure to the teachings, because it'd be so simple for any of us to just go I'm a Christian because I believe in Jesus Christ. But it's so important for us to understand what it means to believe in Jesus Christ. And the last key point that I noted is that the church is visible. This is a discussion that gets brought up a lot. A lot of people think that the church is an invisible thing only. The church is an invisible thing, but it's also visible. We will see this church. And you may be asking, how do we know we're going to see this church? Because I didn't see that written in Scripture, but it's actually very clear in a verse such as Matthew 5:14-15, where it says, you are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. And so they put it on a stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. So we can see this teaching adhere to the church. It wouldn't make sense for Jesus Christ to establish a church and then go okay, now it's hidden. Don't show off my works. Don't show off that you're a Christian. No, don't show off this authority. No, he even says right here, it doesn't make sense. People don't light a candle and put it under a bowl, but know that this church is visible. It's both invisible, but it's also a visible community which has authority, which has structure that is outlined in the church. And so you may be wondering, okay, we have all of these key points. We know that Christ established a church, but why is this important? Well, we know that it's important to find out these key points and find the true church because Christ told us so. He told us to not be divided. And 1 Corinthians 1:10, we learn, all of you agree in what you say, and that there be no divisions among you, but you may be united in the same mind and in the same purpose. So Christ told us to remain as one. Christ told us to have the same mind, same purpose, and to not be divided. And so if we truly want to follow Christ, we need to truly follow Christ and not pick and choose what we feel is attractive or comfortable, because it'd be just so easy to say, I believe in Jesus Christ and now I could do whatever I want. But as we know, Christianity, it's not easy, but it's beautiful. And nothing in life that is beautiful is easy to come by.
Yeah. Yeah. Well put. Well put.